In today's video, we'll be recapping Dawson's Creek Season 2, Episode 15. Dawson urges Pacey to call Andy and make up, but Pacey is still upset with her for blaming him for the repercussions surrounding Jack's gay poem. Dawson tells him it's stupid to avoid his girlfriend and advises him to just suck it up and apologize. But Pacey argues that he was merely standing up for what was right and doesn't feel that he has anything to apologize for. The next day at school, Dawson sees Jen kissing Tyson. Jen is in a great mood and happily invites Dawson to tag along with her and Tyson for a fun excursion. Joey and Jack are hanging at his locker when a group of jocks blurt out a homophobic slur as they walk past. Jack grumbles about how much he hates the gay jokes after insisting that he is not gay and heads off to Mr. Peterson's English class. Joey runs into Dawson, who invites her to join him with Jen and Tyson that evening, but she declines and says that she and Jack have plans to study. Dawson suggests the two of them come along, or at least do something more romantic than study together. Joey is perplexed at the notion of Dawson giving her and her boyfriend relationship advice. Mr. Peterson makes it very clear that he is not so thrilled to have Pacey back in class, and Pacey manages to keep his cool and submits all of the assignments that were due during his suspension week. Mr. Peterson accepts them, then hands Pacey back his poem and gave him an F. When Pacey asks what's wrong with the poem and politely requests some constructive criticism on how to improve his grade, Mr. Peterson scowls that it's terrible and he should write better. He then says to the rest of the class that basically those who are smart enough can figure out how to appeal to him, while the rest should come to terms with their inevitable failure. During the lunch hour in the cafeteria, Pacey tells Dawson that Mr. Peterson is looking for any excuse to fail him. He then notices Andy entering the cafeteria, and Dawson urges him to go and talk to her. So Pacey decides to go over, and the two go back and forth about who owes each other more of an apology. She eventually says that they're never going to see eye to eye on the matter, then rushes off to see the school counselor, who has summoned both her and Jack for an important meeting. A few seconds later, Andy is stunned to see her father in the counselor's office, but Jack is not so happy to see his father and stares back at him. Jack calls Joey to cancel their dinner plans, then explains that his dad is in town from Rhode Island and wants to take him and Andy out to eat. Joey assures him it's no problem, and then calls Dawson to tell him she's up for a fun night with him, Jen, and Tyson after all. The four arrive at a club with live music. A few moments later, Tyson is called to the stage where he starts playing piano for the singer. This surprises Jen. Dawson asks her about Tyson's religious practices and drinking, then says he can't help the irony of him being at a club with the two girls who dumped him. Jen says she is more pathetic because her boyfriend is a Bible-thumping hypocrite, while Joey says she's the most pathetic because her boyfriend might be gay. Pacey is at the library researching codes of conduct for all the county public schools, including teaching guidelines. During the McPhee family dinner, Andy gives her dad an update on her mom and tells him she made the honor roll. He's pleased with his daughter. He then turns his attention to Jack to tell him that Mr. Milo called to inform him of his gay poem. He says the call forced him to disrupt his life so he could look into whether or not anything was seriously wrong. He then comes right out and asks, "Are you gay, Jack?" Jack makes a sour face and asks him if he'd care if he were. Mr. McPhee said that he would, on the account that the family has enough problems to deal with. Back at the club, Joey is slow dancing with Dawson and telling him what a nice time she's having, and then she asks him if he thinks Jack is really gay. Dawson insinuates it could be true. Tyson tells Jen he thinks that Dawson and Joey make a great couple, then shakes his head as to why Joey would opt to be with a fruit fly like Jack. Jen is shocked by his choice of words, referring to Jack, and refuses to let anyone talk about him this way. The two get into an argument about whether or not being gay is a choice. As Jen gets visibly upset, Tyson proceeds to say that it is a choice. Andy drops by Jack's bedroom to remind him that their dad hasn't had it easy and that she wants him to rejoin the family to help them take care of their mother who battles mental health issues. Jack attacks by saying their dad abandoned them shortly after their brother's death and says she should stop seeking his approval all the time. Back at the house, Grams makes Tyson a sandwich and gives Jen her approval on how much she likes the well-mannered young man. Meanwhile, Jen is thinking that her grandmother doesn't even know who he really is. Tyson notices her expression and insists again that according to the Bible, being gay is not okay. He then tries to get Grams to support his side of the argument, and Jen argues that she please stay out of it, but Grams refuses to keep quiet, gives Tyson a look, and points out that if Jack were gay, he'd need all of the love and tolerance he can get, and that Tyson shouldn't be so judgmental towards another person. Knowing that her grandmother is religious, Jen is surprised and happy that this was her response. Dawson walks Joey home and figures something's bugging her. She takes a moment to ask if she's sexual, then wonders if Jack chose to date her because she's safe and could easily be kept at a distance. Dawson assures her that she's very sexual, not to mention witty and intelligent. He then asks her to contemplate why she chose Jack, then heads home and leaves her to think on that question. Pacey runs into Principal Markey when she arrives at school early the next morning, hands her a document he prepared, and points out that Mr. Peterson is in violation of the bylaws of ethics that include all city employees, including teachers. Principal Markey wonders what is his point. Pacey quotes from his report about how teachers are supposed to behave professionally towards their students, because he took it upon himself to gather 20 testimonies from other students and sent them to every school board member so they can publicly reprimand Mr. Peterson at the next board meeting. At the McPhee house, their dad tells them that he is off to Rhode Island, then hands Andy a list of nurses to help care for her mom. Andy gets emotional and wants him to stay, but he says half-heartedly that he would be back in a few weeks. Jack enters the room and boldly tells him, "Don't bother coming back." Mr. McPhee tells him to watch his tone and reminds him how hard he works. Jack snaps back why he's bothering to support a family he doesn't even care about. He then orders his father to ask him the question once more if he's gay so that he can admit the truth, then burst into tears. He reveals how he no longer can ignore his sexual identity, even if it means risking what happens with their family. When Andy starts crying too, Mr. McPhee orders her to leave the room so that he can continue to have this conversation privately with Jack. But she refuses and yells at him to get out. Without missing a beat, he cowardly leaves once again, abandoning his children and his family. The next morning at school, Jack tells Joey he'd like them to get together later that night, and she perkily says she's good with that. When Pacey arrives at school, Jack gives him a belated thank you for sticking up for him in front of the class. This makes Pacey feel good that what he did was right. He wanders into the class where Mr. Peterson is packing up his stuff in a box. He dryly tells Pacey he's leaving Cape Side High so that he doesn't have to bother explaining to the board about his behavior towards his students, saying that he intended to retire in 6 months anyway. Pacey questions why he's so mean all the time and points out that respect is earned through compassion, not fear. Mr. Peterson looks at him and asks if he should respect him after he just abruptly ended his career, and asks out of self-pity where's the compassion in that, insinuating that Pacey took away his career. Tyson drops by Jen's place to see if they're on the same page of their relationship, but Jen tells him she can't get beyond his intolerant views on gay people. Tyson implores that he's open-minded and asks if her liberal views are as open, wanting them to continue to date and see what happens next. Jen realizes that even though he's charming, it's not going to work out. Pacey goes over to Andy to apologize, but at the same time, she tries to apologize to him. She assures him that she doesn't need a knight in shining armor, but rather a boyfriend who loves her despite her flaws, and falls. Pacey grins at her apology, and the two kiss. Jack arrives as Joey is creating a romantic ambiance in her backyard. Jack tells her she shouldn't have gone through the trouble. Joey stares back at him as she anticipates the bad news he's about to deliver. Jack confesses that he told his dad he's gay and that their romance should probably come to an end. Jack explains when writing his poem, something inside of him suddenly clicked. He then thanked Joey for being such a great friend to him and insists that he doesn't want to hurt her in any way or lose their friendship. Joey responds by thanking him for being honest with her. When Jack returns home, Andy gives him a smile and a supportive hug. Dawson is watching TV in his bedroom when Joey crawls through the window and suddenly starts crying. Without saying anything, Dawson knew that Joey finally got the truth from Jack, confirming everything, and gives her a comforting hug as she continues to cry. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.